What's up guys, Jonah Mathis here. So this is the video that a lot of people have been waiting for. This is a full comparison of the Sonos Arc system, which is a Sonos Arc soundbar, two 1SLs and a Sonos sub, and a Samsung HW-Q950T soundbar system. Now in total, I've spent over $3,600 on both of these systems to test them and make videos about them. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would smash the like button on this one to help with the YouTube algorithm so I can hopefully recoup some of my money on these. But anyways, let's jump into the video. I'm gonna explain my thoughts on various categories about each system, such as price, size and design, setup and connectivity, app or controller support, music playback, overall sound quality, and at the very end, I'll give my overall opinion on what my favorite system is and why. Moving forward, I'm going to refer to the Samsung HW-Q950T system as simply Q950 or Q950T. Hopefully that'll save me some time throughout this entire video. First off, let's start with the price, and I'm going to give all of these numbers in USD. At the time of this recording, the Sonos Arc by itself is $799, this Gen 3 Sonos sub is $699, and the Sonos One SLs are $179 each. So the total for the cheapest new Sonos Arc surround sound system is $1,856. Very expensive, yes I know. But do keep in mind that you can buy these components individually. So you can start out with the Sonos Arc soundbar, then you can purchase a sub and surround speakers later on at a different time. And for the surrounds, you don't have to use the Sonos One SLs. You can use other speakers such as the ones, the Play 1, Play 3, Play 5, or the Sonos 5s. There's many options out there, so you're not limited to these. These are just the cheapest option available. The price of the Q950 system has been extremely interesting to say the least. It was initially released on August 14th, 2020 in the United States at $1,797, and the price has fluctuated heavily since then. By checking the price history with Honey, you can see that it has fluctuated between $1,479 and $1,797 in just a few weeks. As of right now, the average retail price seems to be around $1,599, but don't hold me to that because that's probably going to change again in the near future. The obvious winner for price is the Q950T system. Now on to size and design. So the Sonos Arc system is much more compact than the Q950T system, as you can tell. The Arc is 45 inches wide, 3.4 inches tall, and 4.5 inches deep, weighing in at 13.8 pounds, while the Q950T is 48 inches wide, 2.7 inches tall, and 5.4 inches deep, weighing in at 15.7 pounds. Now usually with soundbars, it is better for them to be wider because then that gives you a wider soundstage. The Q950T soundbar runs in a 7.0.2 configuration with 15 drivers, while the Sonos Arc runs in a 5.0.2 channel configuration with 11 drivers. The Q950T system as a complete set runs at a 9.1.4 channel configuration, and the Sonos Arc complete set runs in a 5.1.2 channel configuration. Now, what do these numbers mean exactly? Well, the first number is the number of ear level firing channels. The second number is for number of subwoofers, and the third number is for height channels or upward firing drivers. So the Q950T soundbar is wider, has more speaker drivers, and a better speaker configuration than the Sonos Arc, and it outweighs it. The Sonos Arc system has various touch capacitive buttons for controlling it. On the soundbar itself, there's a volume up, volume down, pause and play, and microphone mute and unmute button. There's a status LED on the front that shows when the audio is muted and when it's receiving a volume up or volume down command. There's also a status LED for the microphone itself to indicate whether it's listening or not. So no, there's not a physical display on the Sonos Arc, but you should be able to get the volume level on the TV itself if you turn on HDMI CEC in your TV settings. The Q950T has a physical display and 4 clicky buttons. There's a function button that powers on and cycles through various inputs, volume up, volume down, and microphone on and off. I feel that putting the display on top of the soundbar is almost a waste because when you're using it, you're probably going to be sitting down and therefore you're not going to be able to see it. So really doesn't make sense why they put it on top. The actual display should be on the very front right here, where you can actually see it when you're sitting down. To compensate, there are 3 front LEDs that show whenever it's receiving a volume up or volume down command, when the ALEXA wake word is heard, or when the microphone is muted or unmuted. But that light does stay on no matter what. So if it's muted, it's gonna stay on, and there's no way to turn it off. The 1SLs are much smaller than the Q950s. They each have the same number of drivers, 2 each, but the Q950s have 1 forward-firing driver and 1 upward-firing driver. Now the upward-firing driver is used for Dolby Atmos and Dtsx, while the Sonos ones only have 2 forward-firing drivers. And the Sonos sub isn't as tall or as deep as the Q950 sub, yet outweighs it by almost 15 pounds. Now this is likely because the Sonos sub has 2 built-in subwoofers, while the Q950s only has 1. Now personally, I love the look and the design of the Sonos Arc system. It's absolutely beautiful in my opinion. All of the components have a very curved and modern look to them, which I really do like. My favorite is the soundbar itself with its 270-degree curve, and the 1SLs have a much similar look to them as it's very rounded, but it also has this nice mesh grille to it. I'm not a huge fan of the glossy design on the Sonos sub. I could have gone for something a little different, but it does make up for it with its really unique shape and design. I like the fact that the Q950T soundbar isn't as tall and should fit underneath most televisions without obstructing the view. However, the shape of all of its components are very boxy, and when you sit them next to the Sonos Arc components, they really just don't compare at all. Now the next one is more of a personal preference because I know everyone has varying opinions on this. I'm really not a fan of the cloth coverings. It's a rough cloth that doesn't feel very nice, and it invites all sorts of hair and dust to stick right to it. Plus I have 2 cats and they really want to come up and scratch this thing. Like I've had to stop them numerous times from coming up to the soundbar, coming up to the speakers, because they just want to stick their claws into the cloth and rip. So that's a big problem for me because this was very expensive and I don't want them destroying it. The Sonos Arc system is far more compact and better looking, while the Q950T system has a wider soundstage and a better channel configuration. The Arc only supports Dolby Atmos, while the Q950T supports both Dolby Atmos and Dtsx. Now Dtsx is mostly used with Blu-rays, but it's good to mention. Now if you don't know what Dolby Atmos and Dtsx are, they are 3D object-based audio codecs, and essentially what they do is they fully immerse you into an audio listening environment by placing sounds in very specific areas based on how the channels are configured. They're mostly known for adding in overhead sound effects by either using dedicated height channel speakers or using upward firing drivers to bounce the sounds off the ceiling into the top of your ear. Moving on to setup and connectivity. Sonos products are known for being very easy to set up and configure. The Sonos Arc itself only has 3 connections on it: power input, Ethernet for network or internet connectivity, and an HDMI eARC port, which connects directly to the TV's HDMI ARC or eARC port. Then the sub and surround speakers only have a power input and an Ethernet connection. Now you don't need to use Ethernet unless you're having issues over Wi-Fi. I have no issues by using the Wi-Fi connection, but if you need a better, more stable connection, then try plugging them into an Ethernet jack. Now my main issue with the Sonos Arc is that it only has an HDMI eARC connection, but no HDMI inputs. HDMI eARC still isn't super common in low-end and mid-tier TVs. Therefore, anyone without a TV with HDMI eARC is going to be limited to Dolby Digital Plus, which is a compressed version of Dolby Atmos. The only way to get Dolby True HD, which is a lossless or uncompressed version of Dolby Atmos, is to either 1, have a TV with HDMI eARC, or 2, use a device called the HD Fury Arcana. I did a completely separate video on this device going over how it works, what it does, and what kind of audio quality it can output. So definitely watch that video if you plan on using the Sonos Arc and you don't have an HDMI eARC TV. That will help you out a lot. And if you are interested in purchasing that HD Fury Arcana device, you can use code JONAH at checkout and you'll receive 5% off your purchase. Now the entire setup process is done through the Sonos S2 app, and again, it's extremely simple to do. I'm not going to go in depth on the apps here, but I will mention them later on. The Q950T soundbar has far more connections than the Sonos Arc. There's a power input, HDMI eARC port, 2 HDMI inputs, and a digital optical input. Definitely don't use digital optical, it's going to limit you to 5.1 channels of audio, and you don't want that. So unlike the Sonos Arc, you can actually connect your media devices directly to your soundbar instead of having to use HDMI eARC from your TV. This means that anyone with any TV can get the highest level of audio quality possible with this unit. The Q950T system is very simple to set up as well, and if all goes well, it's actually quicker and easier than setting up the Sonos Arc system. You're supposed to connect the subwoofer to power first, then the surround speakers, then the soundbar itself. This should get everything paired together automatically. However, if for some reason everything isn't paired together properly, you may have to spend anywhere from 15 minutes to an entire hour trying to get things paired correctly. There have been countless reviews and concerns about this pairing issue. Now you can use the Samsung SmartThings app to control the Q950T system, but it is not required for setup. I have to give it to the Q950T for including HDMI inputs on it. That's much better than not including any, like the Sonos Arc. And for the setup process, the Q950T, if everything works properly, is very simple to do. But if you do have issues with this one, then the Sonos Arc is like, the app just works great. Everything connects easily, it doesn't take long to do, it's very simple for just about anyone. Now let's go over app and controller support. Now again, for the Sonos Arc, you can use the Sonos app to control any and all settings on it. However, it doesn't come with a remote control, but it will work with most universal remote controls, and if you set up HDMI CEC properly on your TV, you should be able to control it from there as well. Some of the settings that you can adjust in the app are simple EQ settings, surround audio, sub audio, volume limit, the IR repeater, and my absolute favorite, True Play tuning. Now, True Play tuning is Sonos's audio calibration software, and it's absolutely amazing and I love it. You will need to use an iPhone for this, but it remaps how the system outputs audio so that it sounds best for your specific room or environment. The process is very simple to do and doesn't require any manual adjustments from the user. Again, True Play tuning only works on iPhones. So if you're an Android user, invite a friend or a buddy over that has an iPhone, do the True Play tuning process for your Sonos Arc system, and then you should be good to go. The Q950T system comes with a simple and generic Samsung soundbar remote, and you can also use the SmartThings app to adjust some of the settings. You will need to connect it to the SmartThings app for things like easy firmware updates and connecting it to the Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa. There are only a few things you can actually adjust in the app. You can change what input audio is playing from, control the volume level, cycle between various sound modes, adjust EQ settings, and adjust the subwoofer's volume level. Again, there's really not a whole lot you can control with the app itself. If you want to make more advanced adjustments to the soundbar, then you have to use this remote and the really crappy display on top of the soundbar. The user experience for this is really terrible because they do give you a lot of settings that you can adjust with the display, but it's on top of the display. So if you need to make those adjustments, you need to go sit down where your main seating area is, listen to how everything sounds, stand up, go adjust some of the settings, go sit back down, listen to it, and that's not a good experience. So the Q950T not having any sort of automatic calibration software is a huge downside for me. Next is music playback, and Sonos's focus has always been on music. In my opinion, they provide the best multi-room music streaming experience out of anyone else in the market right now. They allow you to connect basically any audio or music streaming service directly to the Sonos app. Then you can play that to any or all of your Sonos speakers, and the Sonos Arc is no different. You're able to basically play any audio or music streaming service to this entire system, or you can simply use AirPlay 2 to stream directly to it. The major downside is that it doesn't support Bluetooth. So any non-Apple users, you're at a major disadvantage with the Sonos Arc system. However, Bluetooth is much more inferior to Wi-Fi because one, there's a physical distance limitation with Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi can send a ton more data than what Bluetooth can. But again, regardless of which phone you have, you can still connect your music or audio streaming service directly to the Sonos app and play it on this system. So unless you want to play audio files directly from your phone, you should be perfectly fine. Now for the Q950T. Well, it does have Bluetooth, which is awesome. It's great, we all love having Bluetooth. But the only available Wi-Fi streaming service is Spotify Connect. That's it. So if you want to stream Pandora to it, then you either need to play it from your TV or you need to play it on your phone and connect via Bluetooth. And when you do Bluetooth, you are going to lose a very fair amount of quality because Bluetooth is only capable of transmitting so much data. Another cool bonus is if you're an Android user, then you can tap the soundbar and use the feature called Tap Sound to automatically start playing to the soundbar. It's a cool feature. I can see how some people may use it, but I think a majority of people either one, have no clue it's there, and two, are probably never going to use it. So for music streaming, even though the Q950T has Bluetooth, I still think the Sonos Arc is the winner because of the numerous music streaming services that you can connect to it. And now what you've all been patiently waiting for, sound quality and my overall thoughts. Now I'm not going to provide any audio samples in this video because it does not provide an accurate measurement for how these systems actually sound. YouTube severely compresses audio quality, and even if I had an amazing microphone rig to accurately record these systems, you still wouldn't be able to tell because you'd need an equally amazing sound system to accurately display how they sound. So it just doesn't work like that. I know a lot of people want audio samples for representation of how it sounds, but in all reality, it's just going to confuse you more than it's going to help you. The absolute best way to understand how these systems sound is to go to a local store and listen to them. And I know that may be kind of difficult right now, but if you can do that in any way, definitely try that before buying one. The second best way to judge audio quality is to watch multiple videos and read multiple reviews of these systems to see what everyone's saying about them. So with all of this in mind, here are my thoughts. The Q950T separates audio and creates a more immersive audio experience, sometimes when it's working properly. This is probably due to the additional channels that this one has that the Sonos Arc doesn't have, and those being these wide left and wide right channels. However, there are some notable reliability issues that I want to mention. So if you give it an extremely high quality audio signal, something like Dolby True HD, which is lossless or uncompressed Dolby Atmos, then it outputs an impressively loud and immersive sound that's probably going to impress a majority of people out there. Keyword is should. I'm not speaking to true audiophiles here because they're not impressed with any soundbar audio quality. But when you're watching something that only has 2 channels or maybe 5.1 channels of audio, it's not near as impressive. It seems that the upscaling process to get the audio to all of these speakers isn't the best in my opinion. There were some very big inconsistencies. Sometimes it was really hard to hear dialogue, a little bit of muddiness. I know they did adjust some of this in a recent firmware update, but even still, I'm still having some of these problems. But I will say it doesn't impress me with every single thing I watch or listen to. It's typically only the things that are extremely high quality. The sub and surrounds aren't very impressive at all, and it's very clear that a majority of the budget to this system goes to the soundbar itself. It kind of feels like the subwoofer and the surround speakers are more of an afterthought where they're like, oh yeah, we kind of have to add those into this system. Now this is not the same experience with the Sonos Arc system. It feels much more rounded, where all the components work extremely well together to provide a great audio experience. When listening to music, the Arc outshines the Q950T by a mile. I think the main difference is the surrounds and how you can actually control how the surrounds are playing the audio during music, while in the Samsung system, you can't really do that. It's also nice that you can link together the Sonos Arc system and other Sonos products to play music throughout multiple rooms of your home. Now don't get me wrong, the Dolby Atmos experience with the Sonos Arc system is great. Sounds awesome, I love it. But it's not as good as the Q950T system. With the proper room acoustics, they both perform extremely well with separating out the audio and playing it in more of a 3D space. The Q950T just does it a little bit better. This is probably due to the additional 4 channels coming from the soundbar and the 2 additional upward firing drivers coming from the surround speakers. When given the proper signal, the Q950T shines very bright and sounds absolutely amazing. But it's not always like that. It seems to be very inconsistent with how good it sounds and how well it works. I've had way more issues in the last few weeks with the Q950T system than I've ever had with the Sonos Arc system in the last 2 months. Some of the issues that I'm experiencing is the audio frequently cutting out, HDMI CEC will randomly just stop working, I'll get occasional popping from the surrounds and the subwoofer, and it doesn't always clearly indicate if I'm receiving a Dolby Atmos signal or not. Now again, I really haven't had any issues with the Sonos Arc system since I got it. It's worked flawlessly for me. Now with all of this said, my personal choice is going to be the Sonos Arc system. And the reason for this is the Q950T just had too many issues that were confusing for me and very frustrating for my girlfriend. When I installed this and I was testing this in our living room, there were numerous times I had to come out of my office to help her with figuring out what was going on. And it wasn't her fault either. It was just all of a sudden it would change inputs, or the audio would just stop playing. I'd have to disconnect the HDMI cable, reconnect it, and then it would cut back in. HDMI CEC would stop working, so I'd have to go rediscover the devices in order to control the audio with the TV remote. So it was all these strange issues just kind of accumulating on top of each other, and that's what made me really not enjoy using it all that much. I haven't had any of these issues with the Sonos Arc system. It sounds good enough to my liking, not as good as the Q950T, but good enough for me to really enjoy whatever I'm watching. And best yet, my cats can't destroy it. Thanks for being a trooper if you made it all the way to the end of this video. I wanted to make sure I covered as much as I could about both of these systems, so if there's anything that I missed, anything you want to add, anything you disagree with me on, leave that in a comment down below. And again, I spent a ton of time putting this video together, testing these units, putting some research together, all of that. So if you enjoyed watching this video, please click the like button. It will help me and help my channel grow. And as always, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.